Do you hear that? It's not the sound of scrolls being written. It's not the sound of magic being cast. That's the sound of sovereign steel being forged in the fires of Helheim. Hi, Helm. Hey, welcome to the Tabletop Travel Guide, the podcast where we explore fictional worlds and civilizations right from the comfort of our own table. I'm Tyler, and in a session this week, I spent 2 rounds grappling a ghost before my DM realized that the incorporeal trait was a thing.
Oh, yeah, you can't.
Yeah, I partially thought that it might be a ghost, but he kept saying it was just undead, and I'm like, okay, I guess I'm gonna grapple it. And he's like, okay, cool.
Hey, props for trying.
Yeah.
I'm Ryan. Let's see, in our session this week, I finally ran a level 20 monster, which was kind of fun.
Yeah.
And the players were successful, so that was cool.
Nice.
I'm Sam, and when Ryan brought out the level 20 monster, my character did a spell where I got to invoke a giant bow and arrow and harpoon the undead whale thing from a long range.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty good. Yeah, so today on our segment of things we mispronounced last episode, we have 3 things. 2 things I was able to get correctly identified. The third, we kind of have to wing it. So
That's fine.
when I talked about last episode in Druma, we talked about the Macridi blade culture.
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't remember what I was calling it, but the emphasis was on crid, so Macridi blade culture.
Okay.
The other one, it's all about emphasis this time.
Right.
So we talked about Targath, and I think I had the emphasis on the Gath, but it's the emphasis on the Tar.
That'll come up again today.
Yep. And then we talked about the land bridge to Tiansha called Agenhay. And I know the Hay is correct, but I couldn't really find a good pronunciation of some Agen, so I'm like Agenhay, maybe.
I think we'll roll with it until we're told we're wrong.
Yeah, let's stick with that. So yeah, I think that's all we have. You know, like anything else, if we miss something else that we were grossly mispronouncing, feel free to email us at tabletoptravelguidepodcast@gmail.com. So yeah, last episode we talked about Druma and the Kelids, which had a millennia-long relationship with the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains.
Mm-hmm.
So today, Ryan is going to take us on a trip from the other perspective, and we're going to talk about the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains.
Like I said last week, I was the dwarves last week. I'm going to be the dwarves this week.
I love it. So let's jump in.
Oh, wait. I'll collect myself. I'm not on the other team this
You're on
time.
Team Dwarf right now.
Team Dwarf!
Team Dwarf.
Fair.
Cool. So like I said, we are Team Dwarf.
Team Dwarf.
Before we talk about specifically the Five Kings Mountains, let's talk dwarves in general, because we've really not talked about different ancestries a ton. So I want to do just a little bit of dwarven general overview first.
Okay.
Before we dig deep into the Five Kings Mountains, if that's okay.
I like it.
Do they all look like Jonathan Rhys-Davies?
Well, it's funny you mentioned that. No, but they are taller than I imagined. So they're only about a head shorter than people, like humans.
Oh, so they're like 5 foot?
Yeah,
or like
they're not
4'7", 8".
Yeah, they're not super tiny short. They're like a small human height, kind of.
Oh, okay.
They're really wide. I mean, they're like bulky, but they're not that short. They were designed to be the perfect underdweller by Torag.
Oh yeah.
So it's not super clear where, like when exactly the first dwarf happens, but it is said that Torag breathed life into the dwarves to be the perfect underdwellers, and from that point on, dwarves existed as a thing. And he only gave them one really important thing. He had the Great Prophecy, which, Tyler, I think you mentioned last week a little bit.
Maybe.
Remind
me.
The Great Prophecy. When the ground shakes beneath their feet, they must press upward to the surface.
Oh, I don't think I was that part of that prophecy, but
okay.
We talked about it.
Okay.
And Torag we only talked about briefly, but he is one of our deities that's in our pantheon here.
Yeah.
He's one of the big boys. He's one of the main deities.
Yeah.
We're like blacksmithery and like building war thingies, if
Yeah.
I remember correctly.
Yeah, he kind of like looked around and was like, man, I don't have my own people to play with, so I'm going to make dwarves. So he makes dwarves.
Fair enough.
And he tells them when the earth shakes, they need to go up.
Okay.
And sure enough, earthfall happens.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And the ground shakes. And all the dwarves go, yeah, it's time to go up. So they start digging. They go up. It's very Gurren Lagann-esque. They decide to just dig up. And while they all kind of agree they need to go up, not everyone agrees that we need to go all the way up.
Okay.
Some people are okay with only digging a little bit. And there's a little bit of splitting through the different, we'll call them nations of ancient dwarves. So we have some people that they want to stay dwarves and they want to keep going up, but they disagree with the intention, like the ideas of how quickly or how exactly we're going to do this. Because we're like fighting other people at the same time.
Yeah. So Torag created them as an underground people?
Yes.
Okay, so he, okay.
And then just left really vague directions.
Yes.
Go up. Fair.
Go up. Go up. When everything shakes really loud, just go up.
Sounds great.
But then there are these other ones. There are some dwarves that say, no, I don't believe in Torag. And I don't think we should go up. In fact, I think we're the perfect underground beings. And we should stay here. And those are going to become the Duergar. Duergar. So they are basically Pathfinder's dwarves, but evil.
Ooh.
Man, that's just rude. Like, cool, I'd like to stay safe. Underground, where I've been. Evil.
Yeah, so spoiler, they're going to make it to the surface, the dwarves. So the Duergar are kind of proven wrong, and their civilization, the ones who stayed, kind of start to fade. And at that point, they reach out to a different god, Droskar, who's like the evil god of the dwarves.
Oh, that's where it goes.
Yeah,
To the bad place.
and Droskar's like, hey, I can help. Would you like to train beetles to defend your cities? And they all say yes. So he grants them additional magical abilities, so they all can like turn invisible as like a thing now, and they can train beetles. And now they are a different ancestry entirely. And they just live underground. So that's part one of like, some of the dwarves didn't agree with, and now they're underground. But all the rest of the dwarves generally agree. They're going to keep pushing up. And it truly takes the efforts of Dwarven King Tagric. And he says, look, we're all generally pushing up, but we need to work as one. We can't keep fighting. We can't have any kind of infighting. We can't have this political dispute. We need to go up as one. And it takes them a little while. And within 300 years, they get to the surface. They pushed through and they did it. Great job.
Is this king still alive for this?
No.
Okay, I wasn't sure what the lifespan of dwarves were. It's longer than humans, right?
Yeah, a little bit longer.
Dwarves, I think, they're kind of like 300s?
300 years.
300s.
Yeah, and this all happens negative 5133. So this is a long time ago in our current timeline. Okay, so King Tarek puts his foot down. He says, guys, we have to stop fighting the Duergar. We have to stop fighting each other. We need to fulfill the prophecy and get to the surface. It takes 200-300 years, and they get there. They made it to the surface. And they're like, great, we did it. We had to fight a couple orcs along the way. We might have had some people who were non-believers, but we did it. It's a wonderful, pristine oasis for only us, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah, because that vague prophecy didn't say anybody else was going to be around.
I was going to say, go up and meet all the people who were up there.
Right. Everyone we fought along the way, they just disappeared. Hey, there are orcs everywhere.
Oh boy.
Oh, no.
There are orcs everywhere. So, kind of like alluded to last week, as the dwarves pushed upwards, the orcs were kind of like always one layer ahead of them, being pushed upwards. So by the time the dwarves get to the surface, they look around and go, wow, there are a lot of orcs. A lot of orcs. Wow, we kind of did this. This is kind of our fault.
So do you think the orcs were just like, oh, honey, I heard a rumbling under the kitchen again today. I guess we should relocate. We'll just go a layer up in the earth.
Well, I think they were getting like pushed up by the dwarves.
Oh, like
they?
in combat, like fighting.
Yeah.
Lots of fighting.
Oh, it's a direct.
It wasn't we heard a rumbling in our sink. It was a dwarf just showed up in our toilet.
Yeah.
Yeah. And here's a fun little side fact. Remember our friends, the Kelids? Guess who was in the caves above the orcs?
Wait, the
Yeah, so as the dwarves are pushing the orcs up, the orcs are like, man, we got to get out of here. So they find these humans called the Kelids, who are cave dwellers, and all the Kelids get kicked out of their homes.
There's a lot of displacement here for this very vague prophecy, Torag. Jeez.
Yeah, kind of not the best situation.
Torag just wasn't great at giving context of like, just so you know, there's gonna be things up when you get.
Yeah. So the dwarves might feel a little bad about this. King Tarek maybe feeling a little bad about this. So he says, you know what? I understand we have orc issues. It's a problem. I'm going to declare basically a crusade against orcs. Yeah,
Okay.
gotta kill all the orcs.
Yeah, that fixes the problem.
Naturally.
Yeah, we gotta stop all the orcs. So his first order of business in a crusade, dwarves being dwarves what they are, they decide to build 10 giant fortresses.
Perfect.
And these are the Sky Citadels. So these are absolutely enormous works of engineering. They're gigantic dwarven cities, and they are, for the next 1,000 years, functionally invincible, impregnable centers of dwarven culture and warfare and power projection.
So did the spreading out happen before or after they showed up?
It's not 100% clear, but it seems like the spreading happens before they get to the surface. So the 10 Sky Citadels are placed in roughly the 10 most important points where they reach the sky.
Oh, okay. That makes sense because I know the Sky Citadels are different parts of Avestan.
Yes.
And I wasn't sure if they just got up and then moved, or they just kind of popped up and said, "Here, we popped up over here. They popped up over there."
And for clarification, the Sky Citadels do not float above the ground.
That is correct. The Sky Citadels are firmly in the ground. In fact, many of them are partially buried under mountains. But like in Dwarven terms, that's basically the sky, right?
Yes, just for the proper visual for all of us who may have read this first and thought somehow the dwarves had floating cities. That is incorrect.
Yeah.
But would be very cool, so get on that, dwarves.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't put it past Dwarven engineering that far to make
fair.
flying things. But yeah, these are all firmly terrestrial Sky Citadels.
Okay.
And like I said, for about 1,000 years, crushing it. No creature, no orc horde, nothing can penetrate the Sky Citadels. Except, of course, at some point, some orcs get into the Sky Citadels.
Oh,
Of course.
orcs can never get in. Orcs got in.
Orcs, they could never get in. So in negative 3708, one of the Sky Citadels called Kol Dukar.
We're gonna have so many pronunciation issues.
I know, the Dwarven names are really hard. Kol Dukar falls to the orcs, and that will become the Hold of Belkston.
Ooh, okay.
So that becomes like the orc homeworld, or the homeland. That's the first one they take, and they are like, this is great. Someone made a city for us.
Orcs are like, thank you, dwarves. You kicked us out of our last city. We are returning the favor.
I'm like, not even mad, really.
Yeah.
Right. Like, at some point, it's like, you've kicked us out of how many homes now? Like, we're going to take yours for a while.
They got to keep, several other ones? They're fine.
Yeah. And kind of in the historical curve of Dwarven civilization, we are now in the Spanish Empire study decline portion of Dwarven history, where every 500 to 1,000 years, a Sky Citadel is going to fall. And just, they don't do a good job of like getting out there and progressing their civilization. They just kind of like literally put up the walls and hold out. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it kind of falls apart. And like I said, 5,000 years of steady decline.
Yeah.
To the point where only 4 are left.
So are they okay? So during this time, obviously they're in different parts of the country. Do they like what are their networks? Are they? So you said one falls every 1,000 years or whatever. Yeah. So is it just? Do they have trade between them? Is there?
They have trade between them. It's all underground tunnels and everything.
That's right.
And an orc horde will kind of get fired up and eventually roll through, and the dwarves in the local area like aren't able to repel that attack, and that Sky Citadel falls, and the rest of the Dwarven network is not hyper centralized, and it's like slowly decaying, and they're like, well, I guess we lost another one. Like there's not really a ton of effort putting into retaking lost citadels. At least
I feel
not
like
at this
this
point.
is like the problem with most empires that expand, and they expand too far, and then they don't have the resources to keep all of the parts afloat. So you lose one, and you're like, well, I can't send all the stuff from the other 5 to go rescue this one, because then they'd all be a mess. And
Right.
It's not great,
Yeah.
folks.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So in 1551 AR, Targeth,
Yeah.
that's like the central government. It's not clear why, but the government collapses. And there's no more central unifying government of the dwarves. And this is it, right? Like in the curve of dwarven control over the entire planet of Golarion, like this is kind of where it ends. We'll keep jumping now to Five Kings Mountains history,
Yeah.
but dwarves as the dominant ancestry on Golarion kind of ends here.
Okay.
And
Well,
they're scattered around.
Yeah.
There's still like dwarven enclaves, and dwarves are all over the planet, but they don't have preeminence basically anywhere now.
Yeah, I guess that would just be interesting, especially because they all have their connections underground. So you might, as a human in a dwarven area, or you might just not notice, like, oh, their centralized, quote unquote, government fell because you never really noticed in the first place.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So at this point, 1551, we're talking like some of the human civilizations are starting to rise up now, and dwarves are very much an afterthought all across Golarion. They exist. We know they're there under the ground somewhere, but they don't really hold terribly high importance anywhere anymore.
Well, they're poor dwarves. Kind
I
of.
know. I'm like, as with all of them, I have some positive feelings and some negative feelings.
It's
It's
with
very
mixed
complicated.
emotions. I want to say that the government of Targath has fallen.
But it's okay, because we're going to make the dwarves great again.
Oh no.
Oh dear.
It's going to happen. So in 1557, so only 6 years after like the central government of the dwarves as an ancestry fall apart, the noble dwarves in and around High Helm, which is one of the Sky Citadels,
Yeah.
the one in the Five Kings Mountains, which is not called that yet, they figure out, you know what, this is a mess, and we cannot rely on the lack of a central government to keep dwarves safe, which is a reasonable take.
Yeah, yeah.
They're all kind of looking around going, it's all falling apart. We need to take care of our own affairs. So there are 5 brothers, and each of the 5 brothers kind of takes over their own little section of the mountains and declares, like, founds a city and says, okay, High Helm is at the center, the Sky Citadel is still there in the middle, and we're going to make other dwarven settlements all around the area. And we're going to make dwarves great again. We're going to do it. We're going to come back. This is the beginning of the comeback tour. And so the 5 kings, and this, I'm going to try.
Good luck.
Just setting myself up for failure here. We have Gardrick the First, Sagorn the Holy, Doggin, Grak the Younger, and Tagric the First.
Is Grak just the youngest one that they're just like, youngin'?
It's very, very frustrating because there's like nothing written about any of these people. So I encourage any of our listeners, what do you think?
Well, usually from context, if someone is called the younger, then there was an older. So either there was an older brother who maybe died, and then Garak the younger was born, and so they get the name.
Okay.
Or it could have been if that was like the father's name. So at least that's how it's used historically.
Okay.
When you look at like medieval naming. So
So
we
there might
could
have been
maybe put some of that on there.
Yeah.
there might
that
have been
makes-
even more brothers.
Right. We
Yeah.
only know that there are 5.
That's true. Okay.
Yeah, it's great. So we're going to make it happen. We're going to make new cities. We're going to bring the dwarves back. It only lasts like 12 years. They are immediately at each other's throats. They are like, well, you can't have the best city because I want the best city. And boy, literal open civil war, dwarves fighting dwarves, breaks out basically immediately, especially if you consider dwarf lifetimes are 200 to 300 years. 12 years is like nothing.
Yeah.
This is why you don't start a business with your family. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And that civil war will last, count it, 700 years.
Ugh.
So we decided to build a coalition. That
Yes.
coalition lasted in the time of a dwarven supermarket run. Then the
Yeah.
Civil War broke out.
Literally, I'm gonna go run to the store. I'm gonna grab some food. Guys, why we're fighting already?
It's literally that community meme.
Oh, what the
when
fuck?
he comes back with the pizzas and he walks in and everything's on fire.
And this
Crack the older, that's what happened.
I went out on my tour of the earth and I came back, and what did you idiots do?
Oh, it's great. So this is like my most fascinating thing based on our last time's discussion.
Mm-hmm.
So from like Dwarven history's perspective, all they mention about Druma is to close out this civil war. 3 generations of dwarves fighting. They call in some mediators from Druma who help settle the civil war, and everything's great. That's literally all they acknowledge.
Oh.
So that is fantastic, especially knowing, obviously we just talked about the whole situation with the human side that are like buying up war debts, doing all that stuff, and the dwarves were like mediators.
Yes. We brought in some outside humans only to negotiate our peaceful coexistence, and we didn't lose anything. Nothing bad happened. And now we're all friends again.
I did read a little bit when I was looking for my character section. There was a point in the Five Kings Mountains that I didn't go into, but it said, they always have a soft spot for Druma for negotiating peace during the Curse Accords, and I'm like, do they?
My Kelid rebel persona is very offended. Sir.
Yeah.
How dare you?
It's like not even enough for them to bring up in their history books. It's like, yep, Druma was there. It's fine.
No questions.
They were great. No questions. So even better, the Five Kings Mountains are still not called the Five Kings Mountains at this point in history. Even though 5 original kings made the 5 cities, they're not called that yet. So after the settlement, after the Curse Accord, the current 5 kings that helped make the settlement, they decide to Mount Rushmore the Five Kings Mountains.
I mean, who won it?
Wait, so we currently have a different 5 kings?
Oh yeah, because it's been 700 years of civil war. Yeah.
So we still stuck with the 5 people in charge model.
That's correct.
Are they putting their faces?
Yes.
Or no, no!
Not the founding fathers. No,
Justice
no.
for Greg!
Yeah, not the original 5. No, we're talking about like the current 5 guys. Even better, they don't really organize or like plan who, like they're going to make these all at the same time. So one of them makes a statue, like they all agree they're going to do it. And then one of them finishes the statue and the other 4 look over and go, we can make a bigger one. So of the 5 Kings Mountain statues, they are all subsequently one-upping each other. And each Mount Rushmore statue is larger than the last one.
Oh
That's amazing.
Yeah, it all goes great.
Perfect.
So they hang out a little bit. They have some good times, about 150-ish years. And then we have the return of the orcs.
Dun, dun, dun.
Yes, the orcs are back with a vengeance. They show up with this enormous orc horde.
Oh.
And they show up to High Helm, which is the Sky Citadel, the one in the middle of the Five Kings Mountains, which are the Five Kings Mountains at this point. And they go, all right, we've taken 6 others. Surely we can take a 7th. And this would really piss off the dwarves if we, the orcs, took over this thing.
Yeah.
They get through the first wall. They spend like months fighting through the first wall. And then they realize, oh crap, there's like 3 more walls. And they give up.
Okay.
They're out.
Well, they tried.
I respect that. You get through, you're like, we did it. Never mind.
Yeah. So the full siege lasts 5 years. So it takes them 5 months. That was incorrect. 5 years. It takes them 5 years to get through the first wall.
Oh my gosh.
They get through the first wall and then they just nope out of there.
They're like, that is too much masonry. Thank you. Goodbye.
Yeah, they're done. So what they decide to do in that instead is they just kind of turn around and they attack all the other cities.
Oh.
The non-citadel cities?
That's correct.
Oh.
Yeah, so
slightly less fortifications?
Slightly less fortifications. Not Sky Citadel level, just normal dwarf city levels. So of the cities, the city of Godrith sues for peace. So they somehow send out a peace envoy. And they successfully make peace with the orcs. Okay. And then immediately collapse.
Collapse due to orcs or collapse due to...
Internal, like politics.
Oh.
Ooh.
So at least my headcanon for this is like the peace delegation goes out and they're like, guys, we did it. We made peace with the orcs. And then all the other dwarves are like, we don't deal with terrorists. And the government collapses.
Sounds right.
So the city falls. Dogadeth is besieged for 19 years.
Holy crap.
Yeah, long siege. I didn't think the orcs had it in them to kind of like follow through on long-term sieges,
Yeah.
they have it in them. 19 years. 100% of the inhabitants die of famine and like starvation.
What?
They all die. So the orcs win.
Ooh.
Wow.
Sagarak is under siege for 12 years, and the orcs get in and kill everybody.
Okay. Orcs clean it up.
Yep. And then the last of the 5 king cities, Tagaret, is attacked, laid siege, and falls after 17 years.
That is dang.
They are very impressive when they are not deterred by giant walls.
Right?
Yeah, like they have the wherewithal to know when not to fight, and then yeah, just it's cool to I don't well, it's bad for the dwarves,
Real cool, guys.
but it's kind of cool to see the orcs doing. I don't know. You normally think of orcs like
Like mindless horde.
yeah. So it's like they are also strategic, and to the orcs' credit, they were the ones who were originally pushed out of their own home by the dwarves.
Right.
So
Right.
Okay.
Still a little rough that this doesn't feel like specifically like provoked though. It's like,
Well, I mean,
hey, we took 6 out of 10 of your giant cities. We're gonna go for another one.
I mean, sometimes it's we just keep seeing this over and
They
over again. Sometimes you got to go exploring.
They just wanted to hit double digits.
Yeah,
No.
you want to get them all. You want to collect them all. You got to catch them all.
Yeah.
Am I going to get sued for saying that on a podcast? Catch them all? That's fine.
It's fine.
It's fine.
Fair use.
So this now begins what the dwarves call the Wild Era. I like to call those 700 years of sadness,
Aww.
where the dwarves are still in High Helm hanging out, but they like literally can't leave because the orcs are just rampaging all over the Five Kings Mountains.
Okay.
Like if you try to leave the castle, an orc horde's just gonna show up and like wreck you.
Oh, house
Yeah.
arrest.
Kinda, yeah. Yeah, kind of like orc house arrest.
I feel like, though, tactically, we are not taking advantage of all of the tunnels that they previously had.
But the orcs were also born in the tunnels. That's the thing. They also know how to fight in the tunnels.
Yeah, so they are they might be roving bands underneath
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, blow them up. Look, I am just saying, if you are stuck in a castle and there's all these tunnels that go out, you just light that stuff on fire, blow it up, everybody collapses, you have now created a moat. Amazing.
Well, I think you're going to be a fan of Cardon the Mighty.
Oh, I'm so excited.
So Cardon the Mighty says, look, we've let these orcs run around for far too long. It's been 700 years.
Yeah.
And this is our land. This is our mountains. So he runs out of High Helm. He invades and like starts fighting back and taking back the other Dwarven cities.
Okay.
Okay, but does he blow stuff up through tunnels?
I think we can assume so.
Yay.
I think so.
Headcanon.
Yeah. The critical like turning point battle is listed as the Battle of Split Mist Pass.
Okay, that's cool.
There's zero information about the battle.
Perfect.
So I made it up. I made a whole thing for it.
Ooh.
I'll post that up to the website or something. I made like battle maps and stuff.
Yes.
He kills Tardok Manyspears, who is the orc general at this time, and he puts Tardok Manyspears' head on a pike and walks it around to the other, like in front of other orcs, and is like, if you come mess with Cardon the Mighty, you're gonna get the spear or something. I don't know.
Man, alright, Kadon, that's a little metal. I was just saying blow it up and make a moat, but heads on spikes, that's where I draw the line.
It is successful. He pushes back the orcs, he retakes the Dwarven cities, and he declares himself the emperor, or the king, of the Empire of Tar Kadurum.
Perfect.
So like that whole thing ago, we were going to make the dwarves great again. He's like, we did it.
We did it.
We took it's not quite globe spanning, but like, man, we took the mountains back and we're going to call that a victory.
And it lasted for 12 years.
I mean, 500.
Ooh,
Okay, that's
they
pretty
got
solid.
better!
They got better.
Yeah. So he and his successors, they get out there. They're friends with Druma.
Yeah.
They become friends with Cheliax and Isker. They have good relations with Taldor and Andoran. And they're like integrated members of society. It's going really well, actually. They even build a couple cities. They build the city of Jernashal. They make Rasiri Canton, which is it's like an above ground city.
Ooh.
And that's specifically to trade with Cheliax and Isker. They're like, hey, this relationship is so good, we're going to build a city on the surface, like almost like a human city, specifically to make it easier to trade with the humans.
Wow.
Yeah.
Expansion with trading.
We're really learning. We're going to be members of the global community now. This is great. And then there's these rumors that like maybe a volcano is going to blow up, but like, what are the chances a volcano would blow up?
I knew it was coming and I forgot about the volcano. No.
Yeah, so people keep telling them, hey, that new city you made, those 2 new cities you made, they're kind of really close to the volcano, and like that could be a problem. Maybe you need to reinforce things, build bigger foundations, whatever it might be. But the dwarves, they're riding high. It's the return of the dwarves now. We're back into a golden age. Yeah, the rending happens.
Oh.
So, Tyler, I know, Sam, you weren't here on the podcast yet. Do you remember the Orb of Dragonkind?
Yes. What we talked about? Oh, yeah, because it made all the dragons in Taldor crazy.
Yeah. So apparently, we're learning things here. We should have specified it's not the Orb of Dragonkind. It was one of the Orbs of Dragonkind.
Okay.
There are multiple Orbs of Dragonkind, one for each kind of dragon.
Oh. For each metallic and chromatic?
Uh-huh. So there's a gold orb, and a silver orb, and a bronze orb, and a brass orb, and a red orb, and a green orb, and a blue orb. Yeah.
Okay.
And which of the dragons went crazy?
Well, so the metallics went crazy in Taldor. It's not confirmed which orb it was. Specifically here now, though, the gold orb of Dragonkind is found by a wizard named Ilgrith. Ilgrith?
Ilgrith?
Ilgrith. I think it's Ilgrith. So a wizard named Ilgrith grabs the gold orb of Dragonkind, and his base is in Droskar's Crag. It's in the volcano. So he's like literally evil wizard lava base.
Sure.
I was going to say, why can't we just have a good wizard in a lava base? That'd be cool, too.
I feel like if you're a good wizard, you're like willing to pay taxes and like have your tower in a
maybe
tower in a
you
city.
just want to be warm.
You're a perpetually cold wizard.
I live in the volcano because I don't want to freeze all the time. I just want to sit here with my warm suit. I'm just imagining like that little suit that Daniel Craig wears in the Glass Onion movie at the pool. Like that's the wizard just in the volcano, like living my life.
I like it.
I specialize in ice magic, okay? It's cold. Yeah. So he has a lava base or a mountain, volcano base, just like you do if you're a wizard. And who will become a returning friend of the pod, Mengarke, a gold dragon, young gold dragon at this point. He gets enslaved by this golden orb of Dragonkind.
Oh, not great.
In the mountain. And the wizard sends him to work the mines, essentially. But so a merry band of adventurers is able to free the enslaved dragons.
Oh boy.
And on his way out, Mengarke goes, yo, I'm really mad at you for like enslaving me and stuff. So he breathes fire on this wizard and kills him.
Yay.
So mission accomplished.
Perfect.
And he also breaks the orb of Dragonkind.
Oh no.
Which causes the mountain to go boom.
Oh.
And there's a volcano.
Oh, that's awkward.
But don't worry, when he broke the orb, he made sure to collect all the shards before getting out of there. Don't worry.
Is that important?
It will be in a future episode.
Uh-oh.
It will be in the future. So yeah, he gets out of there. He causes the mountain to explode.
Did he know that blowing up the orb would cause the mountain to explode?
No, and I think it was like an act of passion. That's how I read it. It was
Yeah.
like, you've enslaved me, I'm going to kill you, whoopsie.
We saved the city, Patrick.
Yeah, so the rending happens. There's this enormous explosion from the mountain. And Jernshal, the city, is great. The explosion happens. They all kind of look around and go, wow, we were right. The city was built strong enough. Nothing bad happened. Until 24 hours later, when an aftershock happened and shot a literal river of lava through the city center and fried all the inhabitants.
Oh, you gotta watch the aftershocks, man. They can be a lot more dangerous than the first round.
I'm going to take away points from the dwarves here, though. So they basically had a lava water feature running through the center of the city.
What? Come on. What? Why?
Well, I mean, if you're like an underground dwarven city, like that's just what you do sometimes, right?
Yes.
So yeah, so the water feature, the lava feature, becomes a lava cascade and basically incinerates all the citizens.
Okay.
Oh, boy.
Okay. Well, here we go.
Yeah, Rasiri Canton, that other like above ground city that was by Isker and Cheliax, yeah, that one just falls and falls and falls and falls.
Wait, like literally falls?
Yeah, the whole city just falls.
Oh.
So, like, the earth opens up, and it is swallowed by the earth.
And And the city falls like way down deep into the Darklands, and everyone's killed.
Oh wait, is that where the big hole?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, so the big hole we talked about in Andoran that you can just see all the way down.
It's one of the holes, yeah.
One of the holes.
Oh.
Yeah. So that city's gone. Yeah, it's not a good time to be a dwarf. The current king, Sigrid III, he looks around and goes, "Hey guys, I got a great new plan. We're gonna move the capital back to High Helm.
Because it's still there.
It has nothing to do with the fact that the current capital is either under lava.
Yeah.
Don't worry, guys.
I'm making a completely free choice.
Yes, this was a politically motivated, no other reason choice.
Perfect.
The capital is back in High Helm.
Okay.
It's great. Yeah, this is again now we're in another period of sadness. So for the next 500 years, the dwarves kind of just exist. They work. This is like formally acknowledged as the low point of dwarven craftsmanship. So if we were on the Antique Roadshow of Golarion, this is when all of the people like grading the antiques be like, "Oh, this is from post-rending Dwarven. This is from post-rending High Helm. $20.
Oh no.
It's not really worth anything.
Oh.
Not great. Not a good time to be a dwarf."
Yeah.
So King Talcrick, he's like, "Hey guys, I know it's bad. We've done it before. We've gotten knocked down. We're gonna get back up again." That doesn't work. His cousin Oderic immediately assassinates him.
Oh boy.
He's like, "I don't believe in getting back up again."
There is no hope. Murder.
Oh, it's even better. Remember our friend Droskar?
Yeah. The evil
Yeah.
god.
Yeah, so Oderic is a follower of Droskar.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, and he goes, "Hey, wouldn't it be cool if my little favorite cult of evil dwarves is in charge of all of us?"
Ugh.
It's great. Everything's wonderful.
So Ordric is a normal dwarf who worships the Duergar dwarf.
Yes.
Okay.
So basically another civil war opens up, and the bad guys win,
Oh
Cool.
no.
and he establishes full control over the dwarves of the Five Kings Mountains, and all of the dwarves pretty much toil in misery for the next 100-ish years.
Oh.
Yikes.
The
Yeah.
real low point.
Yes, and this is if we're looking at like the wavy graph of dwarves, this is the absolute bottom of the graph below the x-axis.
Oh, no.
Low point.
Oh.
This is not a good time to be a dwarf.
Yeah.
It's called the collapsed era. So ultimately, the theocracy fails in 4466. It's not super clear why an evil cult of dwarves is unable to hold total control.
Yeah. Who could have guessed?
Who could have guessed?
You can't keep us down.
So the theocracy falls, the dwarf cities are still there, and they all slowly start to pick themselves up. They each establish their own kings again, but it's really, I don't know, it almost feels like early Greek city-states now, where they're very much involved in their own affairs. They don't really do a whole lot. Once a year, they have what's called the Gathering Council, where they all meet in High Helm, because High Helm's still kind of acknowledged as at least the biggest and most important city. And they all talk through what they think as dwarves they should do, but these are not productive meetings. The meetings can last for months,
Oh.
and really nothing of value has ever come out of these meetings. And unfortunately, that is where we sit at current day.
Oh, that's bleak.
Yeah, so there's 6 cities. There's Lared, High Helm, Kovlar, Tagaret, Rolgrimger, and Tar Kazmuk. Tar Kazmuk. Those are the 6 dwarven cities of the Five Kings Mountains. There are not 5 kings that rule them. They are not a united people. The Five Kings Mountains are really barely culturally connected. Lots of dwarves live there. Like, that's really it.
Yeah.
It sounds like they're going to return to the Five Kings Mountains for an upcoming adventure path.
Yeah, I
Mantle
know.
of Gold.
I know, and I think they're actually a new Lost Omens book for High Helm is
Okay.
coming either end of this year, sometime next year. I'd have to look at the release schedule.
So there might be more coming.
But the dwarves are on the upswing, is what I'm hearing. We've reached the bottom of the barrel, and you can only go up from here.
Started from the bottom, and we're still kind of there.
We're still very much at the bottom.
But not ruled by an evil deity's cult, though.
Gotta take the wins.
Yeah, this may be like very kind of depressed for dwarves. I feel like there's lots of dwarves you meet when you're adventuring, like, oh, dwarves are kind of cool. It must be fun to go visit the dwarven cities. And then you're like, nah,
Man.
sounds kind of sad.
So, like, along with kind of Galt, this is similar of bleakness where, could be worse, but this
Could
is
be
not
worse.
one of the best places in present day.
Yeah, so the Five Kings Mountains, they are ruled by like 6 people. They have a bunch of giant Mount Rushmore statues of the old Five Kings, but not the original Five Kings. Five Kings Mountains.
Not the Five Kings, a group of Five Kings.
A group of Five Kings, exactly. And that's where it is. That's Five Kings Mountains.
Well, there you go.
Whew.
Well, thank you, Ryan.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, kind of ended on a downer, but
Sorry about that.
it's, I mean, not your fault. What can you do? So hopefully we will revisit the dwarves, maybe when High Home comes out.
Yep.
And then maybe do a tabletop spoiler guide once the adventure comes out for the people who are interested in hearing about what's going on.
Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah, other than that, we will take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll be right back.
Yeah.
Do you hear that? It's not the sound of scrolls being written. It's not the sound of magic being cast. That's the sound of sovereign steel being forged in the fires of High Helm. At Gunther's Smithy, we work with the highest grade metals to make weapons that don't need runes. Cold iron, high grade. Silver, high grade. Potency runes, get out. Adamantine, high grade. If well-forged metal was good enough for my ancestors to embark on the quest for the sky, it is good enough for your adventuring party. Stop by Gunther's Smithy if you wanted the finest dwarven blades in Avestan.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I don't know about you, but I really want to go buy a sword now. Good thing we're going to talk about campaigns.
What?
Let's go.
All right. So I'm very excited about my campaign. I really like to pull inspiration from where we are. So I did also some research on various places in the Five Kings Mountains. So we are going to pop over to Kovlar for this. So Kovlar is part of the fallen city of Sagarak, if you'll remember. It was one of those cities that got sacked by the orcs. It fell after, I think, 12 years.
Fair enough.
So when it fell, it got overrun by undead eventually and became really rough. So at some point in history, somebody else came in, cleaned up part of it. So the purified and reclaimed part of that city is what is now Kovlar.
Cleaning up the streets.
Yes. So we're gonna hang out in Kovlar, and the campaign idea is that we have some weird things that have been happening. Prisoners have started disappearing from the dungeons,
Okay.
which I imagine are going to be like underground in some of those tunnel systems.
Sure.
People maybe didn't notice this at first because they're prisoners and like whatever. We check on them like sometimes. I don't know. Here's a potato, whatever.
Yeah.
So when we figure out, oh, this is maybe an issue, the guards are like, oh, people are missing. And then they discover some tunnels down there that like aren't on a map and we didn't think were there.
Ooh.
Whoops. So the guard is going to go to the Court of Regents, which is the ruling body of Kovlar. And this is a slight rabbit hole, but I really loved how they set this up. The Court of Regents is run by 10 individuals who are all the head of each of the guilds in Kovlar.
That's pretty cool.
So you get a neat little representation flavor. So anyway, the guard goes to the Court of Regents and they're like, hey, dudes, we need some help. One, to figure out what the heck is going on. Where are these tunnels? Also, can you please help us get rid of a threat that is presumably popping up in the tunnels and stealing, eating, generally making our prisoners disappear and could be a wider threat to the city. I don't know. So the Court of Regents puts out a call for people to help with this. So the party, whoever they are, maybe they volunteer of their own volition. Maybe they are voluntold by someone to be a part of this group that is going to go investigate and root out whatever is happening in the city. So I envision this looking like a dungeon crawl.
Okay.
Essentially. I want to start at a little bit higher level. So I want to start it at a level 5 with like the idea that the campaign would progress through level 10. It's basically going to be a lot of like monster, undead, battle-y type things. There might be some ancient loot. We might find some other cool things down in these tunnels that maybe we haven't been in a while. But yeah, that's my general idea for it.
Oh,
Kind of little traditional, little intrigue.
yeah. What kind of guild? You remember any of the guilds that are on the Court of Regents?
Oh, I have the whole list.
Oh, please.
Okay, so they're all different. So there's a representative from the Anvilers Guild.
You know, I didn't even think to me that like different metalworking would be different guilds.
Oh, it's great. So we have anvilers, carpenters, gamblers, hilarious.
Love it.
The Guild of Arms, Guild of Coins, Guild of Faith, Guild of Finery,
Oh.
Guild of Spells, Physic Guild, and the Stonemasons Guild.
Nice.
So they kind of cover all the bases of like things that you might need for a city to survive.
Well, I feel like you can get a lot of cool different side quests too from or
Oh
something
my
with each
gosh, yes. This is literally like you have 10 NPCs standing in a room.
Well, and you know that like, oh, we're gonna go like down in these tunnels to find stuff. And you know one of like these representatives is like, hey, on the side, if you find any of this, can you bring it back for me?
Oh yeah.
But don't tell anybody about it. So, like, there's all sorts of, like, fun little, like, flavor things that you can pull in just using how the city is kind of constructed from its society standpoint.
There's probably 9 NPCs that are offering, like, side quests, and then the gambling guild is just, like, chalk on the wall. 3 to 1 odds? 3 to 1 odds?
Oh, yeah. They're, like, running wagers out in the streets. Like, who do we think's gonna survive? I don't know.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Okay.
All right, Tyler, so you probably have a character then, right?
So I think my character will fit pretty well into here. I did the random generator, and it literally gave me a lawful good champion, which I was like, that's the most boring character I could possibly think of.
Okay.
So I scrapped it, and instead built a Dwarven lore oracle,
Okay.
or I like to call Loracle,
Loracles, good.
called Roger Loreforge.
Roger the dwarf. I'm in. I'm in for it.
Roger is born to a family of Dwarven historians who they kind of chronicle and keep Dwarven history. Obviously, they, like you said, were kind of at the bottom of the barrel of Dwarven history. So they're keeping all the records of when the dwarves were on top. And so Roger was always very interested in the Dwarven kingdoms, like the old kingdom of Targath and Tar Kaderm. So he grew up doing that. In addition, he had a blessing or a curse. In this case, he was basically cursed with kind of supernatural knowledge kind of flowing into his head at all times, which is kind of a nature of a lore oracle. You basically just are super good at knowing things.
Okay.
So he's Wikipedia all the time,
Kinda.
for good or for bad.
Yes. Sometimes that information is overwhelming, but you can use it a lot.
Yeah.
After decades of curating the great history of the dwarves, he decides he doesn't want to just stay in, maybe he's in High Helm. He doesn't want to just stay there talking about the past. He wants to go chronicle the present and see what's going on. In my head, he kind of becomes like a action journalist out in the world, where he's out writing stories, and he kind of becomes a great chronicler of Dwarven history outside of High Helm and outside of the Sky Citadels.
Investigative journalist, the background we didn't know we needed.
Yes. So as part of that, he kind of just becomes good at not just Dwarven history, but kind of every other history.
Yeah, you're interacting with everything else.
Yeah. So he's kind of becoming, again, he's level 5, so he's not the best in the world, but he's kind of becoming known locally. He becomes a lore master, which is an archetype that Sam has used before in a character.
I love that one. It's so bad. You can just know so many things.
Yeah. You basically just kind of get a free lore skill to just do whatever. So he's kind of this like very heavy into knowledge and chronicling and writing all this information. So then he decides after a while of doing that he needs more. He has powers. He's an oracle, so beyond the knowledge, he can cast spells. He knows some magic. But he decides, you know what? I'm going to get on the front lines of the changing worlds. That is when he decides to join a adventuring party and kind of be the, journalist in the party.
He makes me a war correspondent, basically.
Yeah, that's it. That's what I was looking like, a war correspondent. And so I imagine for your campaign, he hears the call of there's something going on between, underneath a Dwarven city. So he's probably like, this might be a good chance to both kind of make my name known more as like a war correspondent and also just learn more about the dwarves, because even though he's learned about everything else, he still loves the dwarves. Yeah, I imagine he's the one kind of if you have a bard who writes songs and stuff about a party, he's the one writing op-eds about the adventuring party.
Hey, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yeah. So I think he would join the party. He would answer the call and just kind of dive in, and he would write really good reports for the Court of Regents.
We like when people volunteer and don't have to be voluntold. That's great.
Yeah, he'd be all in. I think Roger Loreforge.
Well, Roger's probably like while the fight is happening, he's like, look, and then we were fighting 1, 2, 3, 4, 8. No, nine orcs. We were fighting 9 orcs. 8, no, 8.5 orcs. That's actually a half orc over there.
He'd be very much be like, how many enemies are there? Why are we trying to see if we're gonna be good on strategy? No, for my paper later.
And then someone else is like, Roger, cast a spell, please.
Fine. Okay.
Get your head out of the book, Roger. Come on.
I gotta write. He can dictate. He's got a stenographer.
Oh my gosh, he needs to have like a tiny little familiar that's his stenographer.
Dang. That'd be awesome.
Is there a Dwarven J. Jonah Jameson that he also reports to somewhere?
Give me pictures of... I don't know. Who's a...
Druger man. I don't know.
So yeah, that's my character. Roger Loreforge, war correspondent, investigative journalist, won a Pulitzer.
Look, I don't think that he can have won the Pulitzer yet.
Yeah, he's working towards it.
He's working towards winning a Pulitzer, though. Yeah.
He's only level 5.
Yeah. Well, cool. I think that sums up Five Kings Mountains pretty solidly. But before we go, Ryan, on a scale of 1 to 5 kingdoms.
Kingdoms, ooh.
Exploring the Five Kings Mountains, what would it be?
I think I'm at like a 3 out of 5 kingdoms.
3 out of 5 kingdoms?
Yeah, I think it's not in like one of its ages of sorrow. Like it's not horrible right now. I'm always going to question a group of people who use lava as an architectural choice.
Fair.
But I think the dwarves are cool. I'm an engineer, so I feel like I would really like personally enjoy walking around a dwarven city. Nice. I'd be really into that. So I'm at least 3.
What do you think, Sam?
I think I'm a 2. Slightly less. It just overall sounds like we're struggling to get anything done. And I'm an action kind of person, so I think I might get frustrated with not a lot of movement.
That's fair. But I mean, just as a place to visit, I don't care.
Yeah, no, Sam might be right. Even as a place to visit.
That's fair.
All right, we're going on the tour. Like we're gonna tour the mines. And it's like, okay, cool. So what do you guys do down here? We mine stone.
And this tour lasts 7 hours, so hope you brought snacks.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I see that. I see that perspective, yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be cool to see the old archaeology. I mean, if you're going to High Helm, you'd see a lot of cool masonry and all that stuff. I'd probably give it 3. I think it'd be...
Okay.
I mean, I would definitely stop there on my way through.
That's fair.
Like, wherever else I am traveling in Avestan. Sure, I would spend a night in High Helm and take some pics and buy a sword and then go somewhere else.
You would stay at the High Helm Hostel?
I hope they have an inn.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 3, maybe 3 kingdoms out of 5?
3 out of 5 seems, yeah.
3 out of 5 kingdoms. Official tabletop travel guide score. 3 out of 5 kingdoms.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks to all our listeners. Again, if you're enjoying this, tell your friends. Word of mouth. Great way to spread the word. And check out our website for pictures, character sheets, and more. tabletoptravelguide.com. And with that, I think we're good for closing the book on Five Kings Mountains.
Yeah. Happy travels.
Safe travels, everybody.